You're listening to episode 23 of the D6 podcast.
Here's the encouragement I give you. The shortest distance between your child's heart, your grown child's heart, and Christ is you.
Parents need to own that they are the primary disciplers of their child.
Our goal in parenting is not for our kids ultimately to get a great education, as good as that is. Our goal is not for them to be great athletes. Our goal is not for them to go on great dates and find a great husband or a great wife. Our goal is not for them to have a great career with a great job, making great money. Our goal is for them to love a great God.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the podcast that helps you build an excellent family ministry in your church. And we also have, by the way, Ron, an excellent podcast studio. I mean, every time we come here to record, this place gets better and better.
Well, you know, we got to credit our sound engineer to that, Matt. He does an incredible job.
Matthew, the producer.
Exactly. It's like every time I walk in here, he's got something different that he's added to try to make us sound better.
I know.
You know, one day he's going to say, "Okay, Ron, we got to get rid of you. There's got to be a new guy in here to make you sound better," because he's going to improve the room enough that the next thing is content of us.
I mean, like today, he's behind a wall with a window. I mean, we are like pros in here now,
and it looks like mission control on the other side of the wall, and we have nothing left on our desk. Yes. We're just two microphones in here.
I wish we had like a live stream like that people could see right now. Well, you know what? We got to make sure before we go, we're going to tweet out a picture or something. We got to do something so you can see this amazing setup. Way to go, Matthew. Good job.
Outstanding.
Our podcast is growing and growing and growing. All right. So thank you guys for being here. And today we're going to be talking about parenting in the digital age and all things kind of digital. And I'm going to be interviewing my friend Matt Guevara, which if you're in the children's ministry world, you might know that name. He is in charge.
And if you don't, you need to get to know that name.
You absolutely need to get to know the name. Great guy. And he runs the Children's Pastors Conference. And just in general, though, has a lot to say in the world of media and technology. He's written a book on that, and he's got a lot to say about it. Great interview. And you're going to be interviewing this small, little-known guy.
Nobody knows who this guy is. Dr. John Trent. I mean, wow. Yeah. And believe it or not, he's known for marriage and family ministry. But guess what we're going to talk about today? The digital world as well.
Awesome.
Because he said one of the most trending items that people are dealing with today is the difference between their private and their public platform. We're out there in so many places digitally that sometimes our private worlds and our public worlds cause problems.
Wow, that'll be good. That'll be great, actually. Well, after the break then, you'll be hearing from Matt, and then we'll move in to Dr. Trent, and it'll be a great time. So we'll see you after the break.
Are you looking for the right conference to attend this year? The D6 Conference is a family ministry conference designed for your entire ministry team. Come hear from over 30 speakers and network with churches that share your passion for reaching families. Family ministry isn't just another program. It's one of the most important things your church can do to make a difference in your city. At the D6 Conference, you'll be inspired and equipped to take your family ministry to the next level. To learn more about the D6 Conference, just go to d6conference.com.
Hey everybody, this is another one of those situations where I have an online friend that I'm meeting in real life today.
For the very first time.
I don't know if any of you have ever been in that situation, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool.
It is cool.
It's the gift that the internet gives us.
That's right.
So, I just found out he lives around the Chicago area, and we were just talking Chicago stuff, but now we got to get down to business.
Down to business.
My guest today is a veteran children's and family ministry leader. He's the author of 11 Ways to Share the Gospel with Digital Natives. He's held a lifelong curiosity for how kids learn and how the church can best serve families. His innovative views on the new horizon of ministry in the socially connected, all-digital world have earned him invitations to meet with and design solutions for an array of leaders. And then when I go through the list, it's long because there's a lot of people who want to hear what he has to say, especially about our topic today, parenting in the digital age.
Yeah, that's right.
Please help me all around the digital world.
Yeah.
Stand up at your desks and your tables, wherever you are, and applaud randomly and loudly for my guest, Mr. Matt Guevara.
Hey, you nailed it.
Guevara.
Nice
that's
work.
It. Here we go. Okay, so that is our topic today, the digital age and parenting in the digital age.
Yep.
It might be, if we were making a list of the fears
Yep.
that parents face,
Yep.
I think the one that you address might be one of the biggest.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome.
We're going to break down how to help parents eliminate that fear and how to work through it. So you're passionate about this topic, so let's start with this. How does a parent whose child is beginning to use social media for the first time set their kid up for success? I know they start to use it a little bit earlier than they're supposed to sometimes, but
Right.
I've learned with technology, the way you start them helps the process. So how can we start
Absolutely.
them with success?
It's what you are bringing up is a trend, certainly, that now children at younger and younger ages are investigating, using, discovering technology. And what's really interesting is that at those younger ages, it is their parents who are the ones introducing the kids to the iPhone, to the iPad. It's what's called the pass-back effect. That was studied by the Sesame Street Workshop's research arm. That's called the Joanne Gans Cooney Center. Really odd name, for a research arm.
Yeah.
But they developed studies around this pass-back effect, where parents are grabbing their phone and they're passing it physically back to their children at early ages. So we're talking babies, we're talking toddlers, we're talking preschool. They are the beneficiaries of moms and dads having technology at their fingertips, and they get to play with it because mom and dad need them to quiet down the iPad. Because
it's the best babysitter, man.
Right.
So if we're going to say bad things about it in this interview, we need to stop right now, because I love passing back my phone so I can eat my food at the restaurant.
Right. Something about that. I mean, we've all seen it at a restaurant, at a fast food place, at some place where a child needs to be quiet, some kind of social situation where a child needs to be quiet. We see parents who are doing their thing and a child sitting in a stroller or in a high chair holding an iPad. And so here's what's interesting. As they get older, the fear kind of sets in, because at younger ages, the parent is the expert on the technology for the most part. They're the ones who can control the apps that are on the phone, any type of interaction that the child has. The parent really has some control over that. But as the child gets older, their knowledge grows, and they begin to surpass the mom and dad in terms of their ability to use the technology.
That's a great point.
And so that's where the fear sets in, because, okay, you know this better than I do. In fact, moms and dads, as their kids get older, middle school at the very least, high school definitely, moms and dads begin to pass their technology forward to their kids and say, hey, can you fix this for me? Right? I mean,
nice.
I have done that. I can't get my phone to work, or I'm trying a new app and I don't know how it works, or whatever. I get a new piece of technology, and my kids, who are 10 and 9 and 2, they're figuring it out before I am. And so that's where kind of fear sets in a little bit for moms and dads. So here's the answer to your question. Long setup. To the answer to your question of what we can do to parents who have some of that fear, and that is that they need to stick with the technology along the way. They need to become students of what the capacity is for that technology, and I think a great way for them to do that is just by reading, ongoing stuff on blogs like a Wired.com or a Mashable, just great ongoing resources where it's not like you're going to invest the rest of your life or all sorts of time. It's just staying on top of what's going on out there so that they can confidently lead, guide, and direct, and at least pace alongside of their kids. I think that's what disseminates some of that fear to a large degree, when mom and dad are still experts. And I think what's really important is that moms and dads use technology with their kids along the way. What is the danger of the pass-back effect is that I am handing this phone to my child and then I'm walking away. I'm not using this with them. I'm not showing them how to use it. I'm not showing them what's an appropriate use of it. But using it with them at early ages allows for moms and dads to really set the anchor deep when it comes to them using it in middle school, high school, and beyond.
Yeah, I love it. That was great. So what's your advice to parents whose kids are living in a world where their value is determined by how many likes their selfie got?
Okay, well, this is dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this gets a little scary, and it definitely hits home for me because, again, we have a 10-year-old, we have a 9-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then one on the way. Okay, so as our kids as our kids are getting older, we're hearing things come out of their mouths that are just a little bit disconcerting. The other day, I took a picture of our 9-year-old, Sophie, and it was at her behest. It was at her request. She said, Dad, I really want you to take this picture of me, and, whatever she does the face, and is with, something in her room. And then she immediately follows it up with, post that on Facebook. I want to know how many likes I get.
Wow.
And I go, okay. Who are your parents? Who is in charge? Who is in charge of you? Because now all of a sudden identity, right, and worth and value is equated numerically online. And it's number of friends, it's number of followers, it's reach, it's all of these metrics that have become commonplace online that begin to define a child. And so I think the only thing that a parent can do, or one of the things that a parent can do, it's certainly what I've done and my wife have done, is that we have those conversations. We have the hard conversation. We follow that up with Sophie's question to me of, hey, can you post that? I want to know how many likes I get. We follow that up with, hey, why do you tell me a little bit more about that. Why do you want that to be posted on Facebook? Tell me, is there something, how will you feel if you only have this many? How will you feel if you had this many? And all of a sudden we dig a little deeper underneath. And so I think what that means is that moms and dads just have to get bold about some uncomfortable conversations with their own kids and just start asking more questions that allow them to dig underneath the surface and say, and be a support, and then allow some guiding and redirecting. Obviously we don't find our value and our worth in selfies and in a constant sharing of who we are or what we're doing or what we're eating. We find our value in other places. We find our value in what God says about us, And I think those are just great opportunities for moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas, aunts and uncles to begin to influence the spiritual identity that kids have in Christ. And that's a definite turning from where technology and kind of the modern day, iPhone would lead us. It would lead us to, hey, how many likes did I get? But we have a higher call. And so I think moms and dads just need to dig in and have that conversation. You won't have all the answers. That's the thing. And examining your own motives and your own behaviors as a parent, because sometimes I'll admit I post stuff on Facebook because I know there's going to be some kind of good response from it, right? I mean,
true, yeah.
And I need to be careful about that and examine my own motives. So.
And on the other side of that, there's a level to which you respect your kids by, like, there's been times where my boys, I'll post a picture of them and they'll find out that I've done that and they'll be like, hey, I didn't tell you can do that,
Yeah, right.
So that's got its own issues as well, right?
Yeah, there's the phenomenon that you have just described is called digital permanence. So meaning that kids have grown up in an era where their lives are available online for anyone to watch, and they're not necessarily involved in that
process.
Yeah, putting it out there. They are passive observers to that journey, and yet those pictures, that story is available for all time, and will in some degree define them later in life. And so that's just a very interesting cultural phenomenon in which we live right now, in that our kids, my kids, your kids, hey, why did you post that picture of me? Like, not cool, Dad. right?
Yeah,
not
completely.
cool.
Absolutely. Okay, so parents are generally overwhelmed when it comes to technology and their kids, but what would you say is the primary struggle they're facing that ministers can help them with in a digital age?
So when it comes to leaders who are tasked with, shepherding children and families in the life of the church, I think how pastoral leaders can come alongside the family is to disseminate some of that fear and say, hey, you know what? It is going to be normal for our kids to have a certain higher level of capacity, of understanding, of use when it comes to technology. Yes, because they're digital natives, because they're digital learners, this stuff is going to come pretty easily to them. But here's how to have conversations around that stuff. Moms and dads, here's some great conversations that you can have around the dinner table. Here's some apps, some tools that you can put to good use around the dinner table to enable those conversations to take place. I think one of my favorites, one that we use around our dinner table, is called Swipe It. Have you ever heard of Swipe It?
No, tell me about
Okay, so Swipe It is this app, and it's incredibly simple. It's just kind of like a deck of cards that you just swipe through, and on each card it asks a question, and you kind of hear the question read for you. Kind of this really cool professional, voice actor is reading this question, and then you just talk about it at the table. It's age-old thing, for ministry leaders to provide resources and tools for parents to be talking to their kids. But this is a digital tool, and so all of a sudden it bridges that gap between the digital learner and mom and dad. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you bring up a great point that there's the digital world, the internet, apps, and all of these things, they're neither good nor evil. They
Right.
are what we make them, right?
Right.
So the digital has a great purpose, too. It's
Absolutely.
something parents can fear, but it also really helps.
Yes, absolutely. It can aid in greater spiritual discovery, spiritual conversation, spiritual formation, and so we don't have to be afraid of the technology. There were times where I would be talking about this. This was years and years ago. I started talking about using technology for ministry leaders in church and life of the church and all that stuff. And as I would talk about it, like at a conference setting or whatever, people would walk out. They would walk out of a session. They say, "You are crazy. You are insane. We can't do that. Do you know what we will lose if all of a sudden we're using technology in ministry?" And now, this of course is before digital delivery of all sorts of things. It's before smartphones and whatnot, before high-speed internet and thin laptops and all of the things that we have become just ubiquitous to living and learning and life, today from a technology standpoint, just weren't there 12 years ago. And now that's like completely commonplace, right?
Yeah.
You're getting books, you're reading the newspaper on your phone. Digital life has overtaken the family room, the living room, the dining room, and that's okay. That's okay.
It can be okay, right?
Right,
yeah.
right.
So what we're doing right now wouldn't be happening. This is being delivered digitally, what we're doing right now. How cool is that?
I thought that they were going to make DVDs and print them and mail them to every person that's watching this. That's not what's happening?
No. So you wrote 11 ways to share the gospel with digital natives. Now, let's start with this. That term, digital natives.
Yeah.
Not everybody, it's somewhat familiar, but not everybody is. So let's define that term, but then just tell me about this resource.
Sure.
You don't have to give me all 11, but maybe a few of them. I'd love to hear some of what you did.
Okay. Digital native is a term that was coined by an educational researcher and really a thought leader when it comes to how children learn and how to utilize this kind of new learning style within a public school environment. Okay, so most of his writing, his name is Mark Prensky, Mark with a C, markprensky.com. Great resource. Most of his articles are available for free there, and so he was the one who coined the term digital native, and he did so by saying that today's kids have grown up in a digital landscape, in a digital world. We've already talked about that. Just kind of they are surrounded by technology at every degree of their life, and that starts at an early age. And because of that, they are cyber savvy, they're cyber literate, they are fluent in the language of technology and all things digital. And that is different than the earlier generations. And for the purposes of our conversation, their parents and those who are leading them in the ministry, in the life of the church. There's gaps between the digital native and then what Mark Prensky would call the digital immigrant. That would be someone, who might be from a previous generation, didn't grow up with all things technological, probably someone born before 1980, okay? Someone who, sat in the back seat, the way back of a station wagon without a seatbelt. You know what I'm talking about, okay? So that would be a digital immigrant. And the digital immigrant learns, obviously we use technology today, we're familiar with that language, we use it, but that is not what we grew up in. And so that's the difference between digital native and digital immigrant, and really I hope shapes that definition for people. Definitely has its own nuances in terms of the use of those terms. Nowadays, I'd say there's more people talking about digital wisdom as opposed to the use of digital native or digital immigrant, but still a very prominent term for those who are working with kids and learning how kids learn. As it relates to the book, the resource, 11 Ways to Share the Gospel with Digital Natives. Loved doing this resource. Actually, I got to partner with Awana to do it. Cool. So love the guys at Awana. Good, dear friends and ministry partners for me personally and for our ministry at the International Network of Children's Ministry. So great to work with them on that book project. And there, in a very succinct, short chapters, just break down some different ways that we can speak the language of the digital learner. I'll give you one just for time. One is to make it visual. Okay. Digital learners prefer to process images before text. Now, this is very different than previous generations.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense.
Who would, prefer to read something in a book, right? Or they would prefer to hear a lecture, That is the preferred learning style for previous generations. However, more than 60% of today's kids are visual kinesthetic learners. So what they see, they put into practice. I'll give you an example of this. I met a kid named Lars Burke, okay? Lars was 11 years old, and I come to find out that Lars has incredible, award-winning, world-class yo-yo skills. Okay, and how did he get these skills? It's an odd skill to learn, right? And so I asked Lars, how did you learn this? What is your dad a famous yo-yoist? How did you learn this? How do you become a great yo-yoer? I don't even know if that's the proper term. How do you do that? And how did you learn this stuff, Lars? And he said, YouTube.
Come on.
And I thought, oh my goodness, okay, just think about this after I pick my jaw off the floor. A kid, unprompted by a teacher, unprompted by a reward, unprompted without the aid of a book or a class, went into his room on his own and learned world-class, I'm telling you, award-winning skills from a person that he had never met by watching them do it and putting it into practice. So if we're going to share the gospel with digital natives, we will use the text. We will use the gospel, absolutely. But we need to make it visual.
Wow. Okay. What a great point. That's amazing. Okay, I want to hear about Dispatch, which is a service you work with, and what it offers to church ministers.
Oh, absolutely. We are so excited about Dispatch. It's a new subscription-based program that we started at the International Network of Children's Ministry, INCM. And in it, every 3 months, we find the latest, greatest ideas, products, and trends for children's and family ministry leaders. We hand pack them into a box and we ship them out to people.
Wow.
It's been really fun to work on, and it's what we hear back from those who have subscribed to Dispatch is it feels like Christmas every time that they open it, because you're getting something in the mail, you're getting physical products that you can interact with, read. A lot of times the things that are inside of Dispatch will be a couple of books, maybe a few CDs, other types of resources or ministry tools, and then a mini magazine that INCM puts together with articles and content to help children's and family ministry leaders know how to put the items that are in the box, how to put those things to good use.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I've never heard of it, and so this is what a neat service. And how long have you been doing it?
We just started that this year. We have done 2 boxes, and so our third one coming out here in just a few weeks. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. This has been fun, and your content was strong, man, so I really
thanks,
appreciate it. I thank you for serving the folks that will be listening to this digitally.
That's right. That's right.
And if you guys want to follow this gentleman, you can go to incm.org.
You got it.
International
Network
of Children's Ministry.
You got it.
Now we're going to end because I somewhat got it, and that's probably a good place to go. Hey, thanks for being with us.
Hey, it was awesome. Thank you.
What's it like to be a member of the D6 Leader Network? Well, what if I told you that you could hire an intern for your ministry that would plan your sermon series each month and create amazing graphics to help promote it? What if that same intern helped you train your volunteers by writing an online teacher training every month that includes a fully produced video without you even having to touch it? What if that same intern created a fully designed parent resource that they can actually use to help them spiritually lead their family? What if that same intern was able to get you access to every main stage talk, breakout, or interview D6 has ever done at their D6 conference for your own training and development? That would be the best intern in the history of the world, right? Well, becoming a member of the brand new D6 Leader Network is like hiring an intern to do all of that and more for around $1 a day. We make your life easy. We make awesome easy. If you are a minister, you can go to d6leadernetwork.com to learn more.
I hope you guys understand why I love Matt Guevara a little bit more now. Matt and I get to actually spend a lot of time with him, and he comes to Nashville every once in a while. We love to eat, so we are both big fans of eating. So that's a good thing.
And I'll tell you what, you won't find a more humble, capable leader out there than Matt.
Yes.
He truly is one of those guys. And I know when we get together, and it's not often enough, we just enjoy some, incredible conversations about what God is doing. And it's always about God, not, there's some leaders you get around, all you hear is their own resume. You never hear that with Matt. And he's just one of those guys that just feels like a friend every time you're with him. Yeah.
And every time he comes to Nashville, he eats breakfast at Biscuit Love. And he orders the East Nasty biscuit.
Ooh.
Which I think is...
That's impressive.
He's a real man. That's what
Yes.
I'm talking about. The man... all those things about how awesome he is, yeah. But the man has my respect when it comes to the breakfast table. That's all I got to say.
Yes.
Now, speaking of respect, I've never eaten breakfast with Dr. John Trent. I don't know if you have, but you at least interviewed him.
Yeah. John's just one of those guys that I honestly believe you and I could interview him every single episode and he would wow our audience every single time. And I could say that about several, but I really, really do mean it about John. He, by the way, I got to give kudos. He was one of about 6 or 8 people that we consider original thought leaders that helped us organize the first D6 conference. We pulled together a group of people we respected, and he was one of those individuals. So if you like what you're seeing in the D6 world, he helped shape it early on. He's one of those mentors, if you would, along the way, because he's been doing this so long. Incredible. And I want you to hear the depth of what he says balanced with the practical steps that he's going to give you in this interview. John Trent, thank you for joining us today on the D6 podcast. I am excited to talk to you, and you and I talked off the air about so many of the millions of directions we can go because you have a rich heritage and history of helping so many people. You've helped my family before you even knew me. I can't wait to see what heaven reveals for how many people you've affected. You've written a number of books. You're a personal friend. You currently are serving as the Gary D. Chapman Chair of Marriage and Family Ministry at Moody Theological Seminary. You're the president and the founder of Strong Families. I just want to say thank you, but even before we get started, for what you've done in my life.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to get to be with you and also just to get to be part of your great circle of friends. But yeah, is that cool or what? I get to be the Gary D. Chapman Chair of Marriage and Family Ministry and Therapy at Moody Theological Seminary, which means your business card. That's the whole side of your.
I was thinking that, but I was not going to say that. I'm glad you did. That's
But
awesome.
It's the longest title and the best job on the planet.
But what a great name to have on there. I mean, Gary D. Chapman. I mean, that's another giant in this family ministry world.
Yeah,
So
got
that's
to
quite an
start
honor.
Yeah, I got to start off with Gary Smalley, who is with the Lord now, but
Yeah.
And now get to kind of work with Gary Chapman, and but really and truly just get to be a voice for marriage and family. And so, what an honor to get to bring that voice to the
Yeah.
D6 team as well.
Yeah, I know you can't talk about this, but I happen to know you've worked with some very high-profile marriages over the years, and you've rescued a lot of people. And again, many churches have no idea how you have probably saved many pastors and their families along the way. You know, when we think about pastors, we think about leadership, John. Here's a question for you. We're in a very social media, platform-driven society. We want to get our message out to so many people, and part of doing that is putting ourselves out there. And whether it's Facebook or Twitter or blogs, whatever we're doing, even like our podcasts here, all of these are platforms. Have you seen a problem between that public persona that leaders are projecting versus that private persona?
Wow. I think in terms of what happens in our culture today, there's this thing that I call image management versus authentic living. Image management versus authentic living. So are you an image manager, or are you really authentic in who you are? Now, let me just say, first off, we're all image managers. I mean, think about going to the, do you have Cracker Barrel where you live?
Yes. It started right here where we live.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. So, but let's say you wander into a Cracker Barrel and there's those waitresses that have these 4 or 5-star aprons that tells you they're really good. And they're always really perky if they have 5 stars, So they walk up you've had a horrible day, okay, just a terrible day. And they walk up to your table and they go, hey, how you doing? So what are you going to say? Hey, fine. How are you doing? I mean, trust me, she doesn't really want to know. Okay. I mean, she's just being that 5-star perky person.
Yes. Yes.
Now that is totally appropriate to be inauthentic when it comes to going to Cracker Barrel. If you think you can do that at home, you are absolutely kidding yourself. Kids are God's little spies. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can say whatever you want, but they know what's going on. Your spouse, I mean, you can have, 1 million followers on, Twitter and, whatever you pick the platform, you can have tons of, just name recognition, whatever. But I'm telling you, where it comes down to, I think, is, and what I see that just ruins relationships is people develop this public self and a private self. They're just not the same thing.
How did they get to that point, John?
Well, it's funny, but I think there's really 3 things. So think about this, okay? Now, this isn't you. This is people you might know, But is there a burden that you're carrying right now? Now, we know we're supposed to roll that over on the Lord. His yoke is easy. We can unload our problems. But I'm telling you, there are some of us that what happens is we're facing this burden, and now it could be aging parents. It could be we're working in a tough situation. It could be an elder that just has it out for us. It could be there's all kinds of burdens. Our spouse, we think is that burden. And before we know it, we can get so consumed with a burden that we can wake up. And I'm telling you, I mean, a decade can go by and we haven't really seen the people that are around us. We haven't really stepped into their life. And so for a lot of people, this burden becomes so consumptive that they it becomes kind of everything. So that's one, is ask yourself, okay, Lord, what's a burden that I'm facing, and who can I talk to about that burden? Who can I share that with? Because otherwise, it's real easy to get duplicitous. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
And just think, well, because we're going to wear out our friends talking. Well, I don't want to talk to them anymore. I've already talked to them about it. My senior pastor isn't going to change, so I'm just not going to say anything. Well, the next one is behaviors. Think about that. Okay, some of us have a behavior right now in our life that God's not thrilled about.
Yes.
And so we know it, but we're quote unquote managing it. And so what we end up becoming is an image manager. And it becomes, this pocket that, well, I'm doing really good over here. I'm doing really good over there. I can't even tell you how that leads to addictions, that leads to so many problems. And so ask yourself, number one is, okay, is there a burden that's, that I need to really unload on the Lord and with others? Is there a behavior God's not thrilled about? And then the third one is, and this is hard for some guys to realize and gals in the ministry, is the past. Because people go, the past, that doesn't affect me. Well, they may not see it affecting them, but I'm telling you, their family does every day. And so I think it's so important. I've been reading a lot about David, and it's in his time of great success. We all know that he's up on that rooftop, and I'm telling you, Satan loves to pick off people when things are going great, and your image is doing great. But boy, again, what matters is sitting down with your bride and saying, okay, what's one thing I can do to be a better husband? And what's one thing I can do to be a better wife? Or if you're a woman, saying the same thing to your spouse, saying, hey, help me. And man, just ask them. They'll tell you. But it's that public self, private self. If that's an issue we're facing, image management versus authentic living, man, we need to be aware of that.
That's excellent. So when the spouse shares with you, then there's some hard work sometimes to be done to really work on that.
And if you don't think they can come up with something, you're kidding yourself.
Oh yeah.
I got to do is ask Cindy, and those have been some of the most fruitful conversations. So just once a week or once a month, even just say, okay, hey, I want to be the real deal. I used to point my finger at the girls in anger, hey, get over here right now, get over here, and I asked Cindy one time, hey, what's something I can work on? She goes, you got to quit pointing your finger at the girls in anger. I go, what do you mean? I had the girls come in, I go, come in here, I go, I will prove to you, I point my finger at Cindy, I'll prove to you I don't point, I go, girls, when Dad, loses it sometimes, rarely, hardly ever. I mean, do I ever point my finger at you in anger? And they both nod their head. And so, I said, okay, here's the deal. Anytime from here on out, I point my finger at you in anger. Okay, not just point like there's a cow we're driving or something, but point at them in anger. I go, I'll pay you $1 on the spot. And
how much did it cost you, John?
I mean, they were on their way to Harvard. I lost $22 in a couple of months, and before I realized, you know what, I don't have a finger pointing problem. I had an anger problem, and so I think we need to just say to ourselves again, we need to be the real deal.
That's excellent. Great challenges for leaders, all of us, me included. Thank you for sharing that wisdom with us today.
Thanks.
Well, my thanks to John Trent.
Yes.
When we talk about him, I can't talk about him without thanking him for his blessing book. I mean, just this weekend in my church is so small. Every time a child has a birthday, we all gather around and do a birthday blessing for them.
Yes.
And we did it this weekend, and I remember thinking we wouldn't be doing this if he didn't write that book and kind of fan the flame of the idea of a spiritual blessing. And I just know what that has meant to me, and what it means to me as a person and as a dad. So I just love him, and I just want to publicly continue to thank him for his legacy in my life.
Absolutely. I think many people would owe that debt of gratitude in multiple angles.
Well, this has been a great episode, and this whole idea of the digital world, I hope this was challenging to you. I hope you enjoyed it. We always want to connect with you. Like I said, I look on Twitter every week for the hashtag D6 Podcast. So if you just want to do, hey, Jeremy, hashtag D6 Podcast, it make me smile a little bit, you know. If you want to email us, you can email us. Ron always gives his email address,
right.
ron.hunter@randallhouse.com if you want to do that. And just we want to connect with you any way we can. It's fun to watch. We are able to see every week, every Tuesday when we release this podcast, we're able to see all of you guys listening to it, and you don't know what an encouragement it is to us. So thank you. We want to serve you, and just know that you serve us when you listen. So thank you very much, and we will see you next Tuesday. Who will our guest be? Well, let me look it up here. Oh, my goodness. Carol Barnier.
That's exactly right.
When I first met her, I said, "What's up, Carol Barnier?" Like a redneck, but it's Carol Barnier.
That's right. That's right.
And who will you have?
You and I are going to close the next episode. You don't know it yet, but you and I are going to talk about it between now and then, and you and I are going to close this episode because it's kind of a unique topic, and I think it needs a different ending than what we normally bring. So you guests are just going to have to stay kind of on the edge of your seats along with Jeremy, who's not yet been told how we're going to navigate this one.
This is such a surprise to me.
I know.
You could tell our ninja planning skills are just being shown off right now.
Yeah, I never get to get one over on you, so this is one. Here we go.
I'm a little flustered. And because of that, let's go ahead and end the show. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Talk to you later.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com. And if you're a minister, we invite you to join the D6 Leader Network by going to d6leadernetwork.com.